The rain hammered against the windows of the small, cozy coffee shop, a rhythmic beat that matched the quiet hum of the bustling cafe. Alex sat in his usual spot by the window, staring at his laptop, his thoughts drifting far from the work in front of him. The world outside was a blur of wet streets and flashing headlights, but his mind was elsewhere, always elsewhere. He'd long since abandoned the idea of love. The sharp, demanding world of business had hardened him, made him believe that emotional connections were nothing more than distractions. His phone buzzed, interrupting his train of thought. It was another call from the office. He didn't answer it. Instead, he closed his laptop, leaned back in his chair, and stared out at the rainy night, letting his mind wander. That's when he saw her. She walked in as if the storm outside had no claim on her, her presence breaking the monotony of the cafe like a sudden burst of color in an otherwise gray world. She was stunning, tall, with dark, flowing hair that caught the light from the street lamps outside. Her coat was simple, yet the way she carried herself made it look like she belonged in a place far more glamorous than this. As she moved past him, Alex couldn't help but glance up. Their eyes met for just a moment, and in that brief second, something inside him stirred, something he hadn't felt in years. Her gaze was intense, almost as if she could see straight through him, and for the first time in a long while Alex felt seen. But it was fleeting. She turned away and walked to the counter, ordering a coffee with a quiet voice that barely registered over the clatter of the cafe. Alex shook himself out of the moment, telling himself it was nothing, a passing attraction, a fleeting glance. But then she turned. Her eyes found him again, and for the second time that strange, almost magnetic connection tugged at him. She didn't smile, didn't say a word, but there was something in her expression, a kind of invitation to a world he didn't understand, that made his heart beat a little faster. She glanced at the empty chair across from him, then back to him, as if she were deciding something. Then, without a word, she walked over and sat down. Alex was momentarily stunned. He had no idea what to say. The woman had practically walked into his life uninvited, and yet here she was, sitting across from him as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She took a sip of her coffee, her eyes still locked on him, and Alex felt a strange pull, one he couldn't explain, one he didn't want to understand. "Hi," she said, her voice smooth and calm, yet there was something in it that felt like a secret. "You look like you're thinking about something very serious. Business, I assume." He blinked, taken aback by the directness of her question. "Something like that," he said, still unsure of where this conversation was going. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Isabella," she said, extending her hand. Alex hesitated for a moment before shaking it. Her hand was cool, almost as if she didn't belong in this warm, cozy place. "Alex." There was a moment of silence, and Alex could feel the weight of her gaze on him, as if she was studying him in a way he wasn't used to. He shifted uncomfortably. "So, what brings you here tonight?" he asked, trying to steer the conversation away from the strange tension building between them. She tilted her head slightly, as if pondering the question. "Sometimes you just need to be somewhere far from everything," she replied cryptically. Alex raised an eyebrow. That wasn't an answer. But somehow he didn't mind. There was something about her, something about the mystery she radiated that kept him rooted in place. He wanted to ask her more questions, to learn more about her, but it was as if a wall was being built around her words. She gave just enough to pique his curiosity, but not enough to satisfy it. A sudden movement caught his eye. Isabella took out a small, leather-bound notebook from her bag and began writing something. Alex couldn't help but watch her fingers as they moved quickly across the pages, her brow furrowed in concentration. There was something elegant about the way she wrote, something almost intimate. He was snapped out of his trance when she suddenly stopped writing and closed the notebook, looking up at him once more. This time there was a faint sadness in her eyes, a kind of longing that made his heart twist in an unfamiliar way. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice barely audible above the hum of the coffee shop. "I have to go." Alex felt a pang of disappointment, though he couldn't explain why. He hadn't even known her for more than 20 minutes, yet the thought of her leaving left a hollow feeling in his chest. "Wait, you," he started, but she was already standing up, putting on her coat. "I didn't mean to intrude," she said, her voice quiet now, almost as if she were talking to herself. "I just needed to be somewhere." She turned to leave, but then paused at the door, looking back over her shoulder at him. Their eyes met again, and for a moment it felt like time stood still. She was about to say something when she stopped herself, her lips pressing into a thin line. Instead, she walked over to the counter, grabbed a napkin, and scribbled something on it before walking out. Alex stared at her retreating figure, the door closing softly behind her. He felt something he hadn't expected, something powerful and unsettling. He reached for the napkin she left behind, curiosity pulling him forward. The words on it were simple, but they carried weight. "You won't understand, but I need you." His heart skipped a beat, the message sending a shiver down his spine. Cafe, the rain outside, the moment, they all suddenly felt surreal. What did this woman want from him? And why had she felt the need to say this? As he sat there, staring at the napkin in his hand, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. And somewhere deep inside, he knew he'd never be the same again. A few days had passed since the strange encounter at the coffee shop, and Alex had done his best to put it out of his mind. Life, after all, had a way of moving on, and he was no exception. But no matter how much he tried to focus on work, something about that moment, the way Isabella had left him with those cryptic words, lingered in the back of his mind. It was another ordinary morning at the office when the receptionist called him. "Mr. Mason, there's a young woman here for an interview. Her name is Isabella." Alex froze for a second. Isabella? His mind immediately went back to the coffee shop. What were the chances that this woman, who had already stirred something in him, would be standing in front of him again? "Send her in," he said, trying to shake off the strange feeling creeping up his spine. When Isabella walked into his office, it was as though the world slowed down around her. The soft click of her heels against the floor was the only sound as she stepped into the room. Her presence was magnetic, more powerful than the first time he saw her, and Alex found himself struggling to keep his composure. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, her eyes shining with the same intensity he remembered. She wore a professional suit, but there was still that mysterious aura about her, like she didn't quite belong in this world. "Isabella," he greeted, standing up to shake her hand. She smiled, and Alex felt the same pull, the same unexpected connection he'd felt before. "Mr. Mason," she replied, her voice calm and confident. "Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today." As they exchanged pleasantries, Alex couldn't help but notice how her smile seemed to flicker, like there was something she wasn't saying. She sat across from him, and the interview began. But Alex found it hard to focus on the questions in front of him. Every time she answered, her voice seemed to draw him in more, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She was perfect for the job, no doubt about that. She was intelligent, articulate, and had a poise that few others could match. But there was something else, something beneath the surface that he couldn't quite grasp. The way her eyes darted around the room when he asked certain questions, the way her lips tightened whenever he mentioned anything personal, it was as if she was holding back, hiding something. And yet there was that chemistry between them. The way she laughed at his jokes, the way she seemed to understand him without him needing to explain. Alex had always been the kind of person who could keep his emotions in check, but with her, it felt like the walls he had built around himself were starting to crack. As the interview ended, Alex found himself wishing it didn't have to stop. He wasn't sure why, but he wanted more of her, more of whatever this was between them. "You'll be hearing from us soon," he said, standing up to walk her to the door. Isabella nodded, offering him one last smile before she turned to leave. But just as she reached the door, she paused and looked back over her shoulder. "I hope we'll be working together soon," she said, her tone just a little too soft, a little too deliberate. "Me too," Alex replied, his voice almost a whisper as he watched her leave. The moment the door closed behind her, Alex sank back into his chair, trying to process everything that had just happened. What was it about Isabella that kept drawing him in? He had met countless people in his career, but no one had ever made him feel like this. It was like she was a puzzle, and he was desperate to figure her out. The rest of the day passed in a blur. His mind kept drifting back to her. The way she moved, the way she spoke, the way she had looked at him as if she was waiting for something. Was she trying to manipulate him, or was it just his imagination running wild? It was late when Alex finally left the office. The building was mostly empty, the only sound the soft hum of the elevator as it descended to the ground floor. He was just about to step outside when he heard a voice, soft, low, and coming from somewhere down the hallway. Curious, he moved toward the sound, his footsteps echoing in the quiet building. As he neared the corner, he realized the voice was coming from a phone conversation. Alex froze, his heart skipping a beat when he recognized the voice. Isabella. He leaned in slightly, careful not to make a sound, trying to catch every word. "Yeah, I'm here," Isabella said quietly, her voice almost muffled. "I'll stay close to him like you said. It's the only way." Alex's heart raced. What did she mean by that? Take close to him? Who was she talking to? He felt a knot form in his stomach as he tried to process the words. The conversation continued, but Alex couldn't make out much more. He didn't want to risk being discovered, so he quietly backed away, his mind spinning with the implications of what he'd just overheard. What was Isabella up to? Why did she need to stay close to him? Was this all just some elaborate plan, or was he simply reading too much into it? The next day, Alex found himself unable to focus on anything other than Isabella. She had left a mark on him, something deep inside he couldn't ignore. But now, after overhearing her conversation, he felt a sense of unease that he couldn't shake. He had a million questions, but no answers. When he arrived at the office that morning, he was greeted by his assistant with the news that Isabella had accepted the job. "She's starting Monday," his assistant said. "And she's eager to get to work." Alex nodded absently, his thoughts still swirling. He couldn't help but wonder what her true intentions were. What was it that she wasn't telling him? And why did it feel like his world was about to change in ways he couldn't control? As the day wore on, Alex couldn't escape the feeling that Isabella was much more than she appeared. She wasn't just some woman he had met by chance. There was something bigger at play, something that was drawing them together whether he liked it or not. And as much as he wanted to deny it deep down, he knew that the pull between them wasn't just about business, it was personal. But what was she hiding? And why did it feel like he was about to be dragged into something far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined? He didn't know the answers yet, but one thing was certain, whatever this was, it was only just beginning. Alex sat at his desk, staring at the phone in front of him. He had been distracted all day, thoughts of Isabella creeping into his mind, tugging at him with a force he couldn't ignore. Chemistry between them was undeniable, but it was more than that. There was something in her eyes, something she wasn't saying, something she was holding back. He had to know the truth. The knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was Isabella, standing in the doorway, her eyes searching his face. She looked as stunning as always, but there was something different about her today, something darker, more vulnerable. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. Alex nodded, motioning for her to come in. She stepped inside, her usual confidence replaced by a quiet tension. She closed the door behind her, taking a deep breath as she sat down across from him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt thick, heavy with unspoken words. "I know you've been wondering about me," Isabella said, breaking the silence. "And I think it's time I tell you the truth." Alex leaned forward, his heart racing. He had a feeling this conversation would change everything. "You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to," he said, his voice soft. "No," she replied, her gaze locking with his. "I think you deserve to know. All of it." She paused, her eyes flicking to the window as if making sure they were alone. "I wasn't always this way," she began. "I didn't always have to run. I had a life before everything changed. Alex's mind raced as he listened, trying to piece together the mystery of the woman in front of him. She had always been guarded, but now there was a rawness to her words, a vulnerability that was both beautiful and heartbreaking. I grew up in a small town, Isabella continued, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. I had a family, a normal life. But that changed when I met him. Alex furrowed his brow. Who? She looked at him, her eyes darkening. His name is Vincent. He's dangerous, Alex. He's the kind of man who doesn't stop until he gets what he wants. And what he wants is me. Alex's stomach tightened at the mention of the name. There was something in her voice, something that made him realize she wasn't just talking about a past lover. This was something far darker, something that had scarred her deeply. I was young, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know what he was capable of. First he seemed charming, perfect. But slowly, he started showing his true colors. He controlled everything in my life, my actions, my choices. And when I tried to break away, she trailed off, her face pale. Alex reached across the table, his hand resting on hers. Isabella, you don't have to say anymore. You're safe now. But she shook her head, her eyes welling with tears. No, Alex. I've been running for years. I thought I could escape, but he's always found me. He's always one step behind me. And now, she paused, taking a shaky breath. Now he's found me again. And I'm afraid he's going to come for you, too. Alex's mind spun with the weight of her words. He had known Isabella had a mysterious past, but he had no idea it was this dangerous. He thought he understood her, thought he could protect her, but this was something far beyond what he had ever imagined. You don't have to face this alone, Alex said firmly, squeezing her hand. We'll figure it out. Together. Isabella looked at him, her eyes filled with doubt and fear. You don't understand, Alex. He doesn't just let people go. He'll hurt anyone who gets in his way. He's done it before. And if he thinks you're helping me, her voice trailed off as she looked away, tears brimming in her eyes. Alex's heart ached as he watched her struggle. He could see the pain in her face, the years of running, of hiding, and it made him more determined than ever to help her. He wasn't going to let her face this on her own. I don't care what it takes, Alex said, his voice strong. I'll protect you. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Isabella looked at him, her expression softening. For a moment, the walls she had built around herself seemed to crumble. You don't know what you're getting yourself into, she whispered. Vincent won't stop until he has me. And if he thinks you're a threat, he'll destroy you too. Before Alex could respond, there was a loud noise outside the window, something that made both of them freeze. They both turned toward the sound, and Isabella's face went pale. What was that? Alex asked, his voice tense. Isabella's eyes were wide with fear. It's him, she said in a low voice, barely above a whisper. He's here. Alex stood up, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't believe what she was saying. Was it possible? Could Vincent have already found her? Without thinking, he moved toward the window, his mind racing. He looked out, but all he could see was the reflection of the city lights and the dark silhouette of the building across the street. Isabella, there's nothing out there, he said, trying to calm her down. But when he turned back to look at her, her eyes were wide with terror. He's out there, Alex, she said, her voice trembling. He's been watching me. I knew he would come for me eventually. But I didn't think it would be this soon. Alex moved quickly, grabbing his coat and heading for the door. He had to protect her. He had to make sure Vincent didn't get to her again. But as they reached the door, there was another sound. This time, it was the unmistakable sound of footsteps coming from the hallway. Someone was outside. Stay here, Alex said, pushing her gently behind him. He couldn't let anyone hurt her. He would keep her safe no matter what. He stepped into the hallway, his heart racing. The footsteps stopped abruptly, and for a moment everything went eerily quiet. Isabella, he called, his voice strained with worry. But there was no answer. He turned around, his eyes scanning the empty hallway. Where had she gone? Had she left him? Or had Vincent found her? Suddenly, he heard the sound of a door opening. It was coming from behind him. Alex spun around, his heart stopping in his chest. Isabella stood there, her eyes wide with fear, staring at something or someone he couldn't see. "It's him," she whispered again, her voice barely audible. Alex's pulse raced as he followed her gaze, and in that moment he realized Vincent had found them. Alex paced back and forth in the dimly lit room, his thoughts swirling in a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Isabella had been quiet all day, lost in her own thoughts, her mind clearly preoccupied with whatever it was that had been haunting her for so long. He had never seen her like this before, vulnerable, broken even. He could still hear her words echoing in his mind. "He's out there, Alex. He's been watching me. I knew he would come for me eventually." The fear in her voice had sent chills down his spine, but what unsettled him more was the look in her eyes when she said it, the look of someone who had lived in terror for far too long. "Isabella," Alex called softly, trying to pull her out of her thoughts. She turned toward him, her eyes tired and distant. "I'm sorry," she whispered, brushing a hand through her hair. "I didn't mean to drag you into this." Alex took a step closer, reaching for her hand. "You didn't drag me anywhere. I'm here because I want to be. You don't have to go through this alone." Isabella looked at him, her lips trembling. "You don't understand, Alex. You don't know what he's capable of. I've seen what he does to people who cross him." "I don't care about that," Alex said firmly, squeezing her hand. "I care about you." Isabella's eyes softened, but the fear still lingered. "I never wanted you to be involved in this," she said, her voice breaking. "But I don't have a choice anymore. He's coming for me, and I don't know how to stop him." Alex's heart ached for her. He knew there was so much she hadn't told him, but he also knew that whatever it was tearing her apart. He couldn't just sit back and watch her suffer. He had to help her, no matter what it took. Suddenly, there was a loud bang from outside, followed by the sound of tires screeching. Isabella's face went pale as she stood up, rushing to the window. Alex followed her, peering through the blinds, but all he could see were the flashing lights of several cars speeding down the street. "They're here," Isabella whispered, her voice thick with fear. "He's found me. They're coming for us." Before Alex could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway outside their apartment. Someone was coming, and Alex knew it wasn't just anyone. It was Vincent and his men. Isabella grabbed his arm, her grip tight. "You need to leave. Now. Get out of here while you still can." "I'm not going anywhere," Alex said, his voice low and steady. "I'm not leaving you." But Isabella shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "You don't understand. You don't know what he'll do if he finds you. He'll hurt you, Alex. He'll hurt everyone I care about." Just as she spoke, the door to the apartment was thrown open with a loud crash, and Alex's heart skipped a beat. Two men stepped inside, their eyes scanning the room as if searching for something, or someone. Alex tensed, ready to defend Isabella at all costs. One of the men stepped forward, a cruel smirk on his face. "Looking for someone?" he sneered. "I think we've found her." Isabella gasped, and Alex instinctively stepped in front of her, his chest rising and falling with the rapid beat of his heart. He wasn't sure what to do, how to fight these men, but he couldn't let them take her. "Get out of here," Alex said, his voice shaking with anger. "You're not taking her." The man laughed. "You really think you can stop us?" Alex's mind raced. He had to think fast, find a way to get them both out of this situation. As the two men advanced, he heard the sound of a car engine revving in the distance, getting closer. A split second later, a deafening explosion rocked the building, the force of it knocking the men off their feet. Alex instinctively grabbed Isabella, pulling her to the ground as debris rained down around them. The blast had come from the street, a car parked nearby erupting in flames. The explosion had created a small window of opportunity, a moment of chaos when the men were disoriented and vulnerable. Now was their chance. "Run!" Alex shouted, pulling Isabella to her feet and dragging her toward the door. They dashed through the hallway, adrenaline pumping through their veins as they raced down the stairs and out into the night. Behind them, the building was engulfed in smoke, and the sound of sirens filled the air. They didn't stop running, not until they reached the alley where Alex had parked the car. Isabella was breathless, her heart pounding as she clung to Alex's arm, her mind racing with fear and confusion. "What just happened?" she gasped, trying to catch her breath. Alex didn't have an answer. He was just as shaken as she was. All he knew was that they were no longer safe. Vincent was coming for them, and they couldn't keep running forever. "We need to get as far away as possible," Alex said, his voice low. "But we can't just leave everything behind. I need to know who's behind this. Who's really pulling the strings?" Isabella's eyes widened and she took a step back. "What do you mean?" Alex turned to her, his face hardening with determination. "You said someone was behind the manipulation. Someone you trusted. I need to know who it is, Isabella. We can't fight this if we don't know the truth." Isabella hesitated, her gaze shifting between Alex and the distant lights of the city. For a moment, she said nothing, her mind torn between the fear of exposing the truth and the overwhelming need to stop running. But at last she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "It was my brother," she said softly, her words carrying the weight of a lifetime of secrets. "He's the one who sold me out. He's the one who betrayed me." Alex's eyes widened in shock. "Your brother? But why?" Isabella's expression twisted with pain. "He's been working with Vincent from the beginning. I never knew, Alex. I never knew he was involved until it was too late." Alex felt a surge of anger. He couldn't believe what she was telling him. Person Isabella had trusted most in the world had been the one to put her in danger all along. "They've been using him to get to me," Isabella continued, her voice breaking. "And now they've finally caught up." Just then, a car pulled up behind them, the headlights blinding them momentarily. Alex tensed, ready to fight, but as the car door opened, it wasn't Vincent's men who stepped out. It was someone else. Someone who was about to change everything. Alex watched Isabella from across the room, his mind a whirl of emotions. The love he felt for her was undeniable, but so was the feeling of betrayal that lingered between them. She had changed. She was different from the woman he had first met. The secrets she had been hiding were catching up to them, and he could feel the weight of them, pressing down on both of them. The city outside their apartment window was bustling, oblivious to the chaos that had taken over their lives. It had been a few days since the explosion, and they had barely escaped with their lives. Vincent's men were still out there, hunting them down, but it wasn't just the danger that weighed on Alex's mind. It was Isabella. Her distance, her secrecy, it was suffocating him. "Isabella," he called softly, standing up from the couch. She was sitting by the window, her gaze lost in the distance. She didn't turn to look at him, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. He knew she was thinking about everything that had happened, the danger, the lies, the betrayal, but more than that, he knew she was thinking about something else. "I can't keep doing this, Alex," she said quietly, her voice breaking the silence. "I can't keep pretending that everything's okay when it's not." Alex frowned. "What do you mean?" "We're together, we're safe." "No," she interrupted, shaking her head. "We're not safe. Not anymore." Her words stung, and Alex felt a knot tighten in his chest. He stepped closer to her, his voice gentle. "Isabella, what's going on? You're not telling me everything, and I need to know. You don't have to hide it from me." She turned to him then, her eyes filled with pain and regret. "I never wanted to hurt you, Alex. But there's something you don't understand. Something I've been keeping from you. The air between them felt heavy, thick with unsaid words. Alex could see the struggle in her eyes, the way she wanted to open up to him but couldn't. He stepped closer, his hand reaching for hers. "What is it?" "You can tell me anything." Isabella pulled away, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I made a promise," she whispered, barely audible. "A promise to someone I thought I could trust. And now I'm stuck between the person I love and the person I swore to protect." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "What promise? Who are you protecting, Isabella?" Her eyes flicked up to meet his, and there was a flash of something dark in them. "It's not just about me, Alex. This is bigger than you and me. I've been running from Vincent, but he's not the only threat. There's someone else involved. Someone close to you." Alex recoiled, his mind racing. "What do you mean? Who's involved with Vincent?" Isabella hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her options. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling. "It's your brother, Alex. He's the one who's been working with Vincent. He's the one who set everything in motion." Alex's blood ran cold. "My brother," he echoed, his voice filled with disbelief. "No, that can't be true." "It is," she said softly. "I found out too late. I didn't want to believe it either, but it's the truth." Alex took a step back, his mind spinning. His brother, his flesh and blood, was involved with the very man who had been hunting Isabella, who had been causing all of this chaos. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. Didn't make sense. His brother had always been there for him, had always been the one person Alex could count on. But now the truth hit him like a punch to the gut. The betrayal was unbearable. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Alex demanded, his voice rising in frustration. "Why keep this from me?" Isabella's face twisted with sorrow. "Because I didn't want to drag you into this mess, Alex. I didn't want you to become a part of it. But now it's too late. The danger is too real." Alex shook his head, anger flaring inside him. "You should have trusted me. We could have figured this out together." She stood up abruptly, her eyes flashing with emotion. "I couldn't risk it, Alex. I made a promise to protect you, and I can't break that promise. If Vincent finds out what we're planning, it could cost us both our lives. I have to make a choice, and that choice doesn't include you." The words hit Alex like a slap in the face. He couldn't believe what she was saying. She was willing to walk away from him, to give up their love, just to protect him from the danger she had dragged him into. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. "Isabella, please," he begged, his voice desperate. "Don't do this. I love you." Tears welled up in Isabella's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She took a step back, her shoulders slumped with the weight of her decision. "I love you too, Alex. But love isn't enough to protect us anymore." Without another word, she turned and walked toward the door. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he watched her go, helpless to stop her. She was leaving him, and he couldn't change her mind. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. She paused at the door, her hand resting on the doorknob. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I wish things could be different." And with that, she was gone. Alex stood frozen in the center of the room, the echo of her footsteps fading in the distance. His chest ached with the loss of her, the love he had fought so hard to keep slipping through his fingers. The room felt emptier now, the silence louder than ever. He had no idea what to do next. He didn't know how to move forward without her. He had given everything for her, his trust, his heart, his soul. But it wasn't enough. Past, the promises she had made, the danger, everything had torn them apart. And now he was alone. As he sank down onto the couch, the weight of it all pressed down on him. Isabella had made her choice. And no matter how much he loved her, he couldn't change it. The betrayal ran too deep, the lines between love and loyalty too blurred. He ran a hand through his hair, his thoughts swirling. There had to be a way to fix this. There had to be a way to get her back. But in the quiet of the room, with nothing but the sound of his own heartbeat, Alex knew that sometimes love wasn't enough. Sometimes fate had other plans. Alex couldn't focus on anything else. Every minute without Isabella felt like a lifetime, a never-ending spiral of longing and frustration. He had to find her. No matter where she was, no matter the cost, he couldn't live without her. He knew what she had said, how she had pushed him away, but he also knew that love wasn't something you just walked away from. It wasn't something you gave up on. Not without a fight. As he sat in his car, the engine idling softly in the background, his thoughts went over everything that had happened. The explosion, the fear, her brother's betrayal. It all seemed so distant now, as though it were someone else's life. But the truth was, no matter how hard he tried to escape it, Isabella was the center of it all. Everything had always led back to her, to the secret she kept, to the love they shared. Alex had spent days searching for her, chasing down every lead, every clue. But it was like she had vanished off the face of the earth. Her apartment was empty, her phone disconnected. She had gone into hiding, and Alex had no idea where to turn next. But he wasn't giving up. Not now. Not when he was so close. He remembered the last time they were together. The last time they had stood face to face. She had walked away and he had let her. But now, all he wanted was to hold her again, to tell her that everything would be okay. That they would be okay. He had to make her see that love was worth fighting for, that they had something real. Something worth saving. His phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him from his thoughts. He pulled it out, glancing at the screen. It was a message from a contact he had been working with, someone who had promised to help him find Isabella. The message was brief, just a location and a time. But it was all he needed. He didn't waste another second. He started the car and drove toward the address, his heart pounding in his chest. Every turn felt like a step closer to her. He could feel it in his bones. This was it. This was the moment he had been waiting for. The drive felt like hours, though it only took him a few minutes to reach the location. It was a small, nondescript building in a part of the city he didn't recognize. He parked the car and stepped out, his heart racing as he approached the entrance. He had no idea what he would find inside, but he didn't care. He had to see her again. As he walked into the building, the air felt thick, heavy with the tension of what was about to happen. He had no plan, no backup. This was just him, hoping and praying that Isabella would be there, that she would be willing to listen to him. The door creaked open, and Alex stepped into the dimly lit room. He scanned the area quickly, his eyes landing on a figure in the corner. His heart skipped a beat. There she was. Isabella. She stood with her back to him, her hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders. She was looking out the window, her posture stiff, as if she were bracing for something. Alex took a deep breath, his voice catching in his throat. Isabella. She froze, her body going tense at the sound of his voice. Slowly, she turned to face him, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Time seemed to stretch, and Alex felt the weight of every moment they had spent apart. The distance between them had never felt so vast, yet in that moment it felt like they were both standing on the edge of something monumental. You shouldn't be here, she whispered, her voice barely audible. It's too dangerous. I don't care about the danger, Alex replied, taking a step closer. I care about you. I've been looking for you, Isabella. I need you to understand something. I love you. And I'm not going to walk away. Isabella's eyes flickered with emotion, but she quickly turned away, her hands clenched at her sides. You don't know the truth. You don't know who I really am. I don't care who you were, Isabella, Alex said, his voice gentle but firm. I care about who you are now. The woman I fell in love with. The woman who's been keeping secrets, hiding from the truth. I know it's not easy, but we can face this together. She shook her head, her eyes clouded with doubt. You don't get it, Alex. My past, it's not something I can just move on from. I've made mistakes. I've hurt people. And I've lied to you. I don't deserve your love. You don't get to decide that, Alex replied, his voice thick with emotion. You don't get to tell me who I can love. You've made mistakes, yes, but that doesn't mean we can't fix things. You and me, we can fight through this. Together. Isabella's face softened, the hardness in her eyes beginning to fade. But before she could speak, the sound of footsteps echoed through the hall, sharp and fast. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He knew that sound all too well. They weren't alone. Alex turned toward the door just as the figure appeared in the doorway, a man Alex had never seen before but whose presence was unmistakable. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a cold, calculating look in his eyes. He stepped forward, his gaze flicking between Alex and Isabella, a smug smile curling at the corner of his lips. Well, 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 he said, his voice low and menacing. Isn't this a touching reunion? Isabella stiffened, her eyes widening with fear. No. You shouldn't be here. This is over. I've made my choice. The man's smile only grew. Your choice? You think you can just walk away from me? From everything I've given you? From everything you owe me? Alex moved instinctively, stepping in front of Isabella. He didn't know who this man was, but he could feel the danger in the air. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a threat to their lives. You're not taking her, Alex said, his voice firm, his fists clenched. Not now, not ever. The man chuckled darkly, stepping closer. You really think you can stop me? You think you can save her? Before Alex could respond, the sound of a gunshot rang through the room, the sharp crack of the bullet echoing in the confined space. Alex's heart stopped as he turned toward Isabella. She was standing there, her eyes wide with shock, blood staining her shirt. No! Alex shouted, rushing to her side as she collapsed into his arms. He could feel her warmth slipping away, her breath shallow and ragged. The man stood behind them, his gun still raised, his smile never fading. You should have known, Alex. This was always going to end like this. Alex felt the world tilt, his vision blurring with the overwhelming fear and grief. He had finally found Isabella, but now it was too late. The enemy had come for them, and everything he had fought for was slipping away. Just as he held Isabella close, her life hanging by a thread, the world seemed to pause. The final showdown was just beginning. And Alex knew that the fight for their love, their survival, had only just started. Alex stood by Isabella, his hand gripping hers tightly as they faced the man who had been hunting them for what felt like a lifetime. The room was dimly lit, the shadows casting long, eerie lines across the walls. Every breath felt heavy, every heartbeat loud in his ears. The danger was real now, more real than it had ever been. The battle for their survival, their love, was about to reach its final, fateful moment. Isabella had been silent for too long, her eyes distant, her face pale. He knew she was hiding something, something huge, something that could change everything. He had seen it in her eyes, the weight of a truth she hadn't shared. And now, standing in this room, surrounded by the enemy, the truth was about to break free. The man before them, the one who had orchestrated the chaos, the lies, and the danger, smiled coldly. His eyes locked on Alex, filled with malice and contempt. You've been a thorn in my side for far too long, the man said, his voice smooth and threatening. But this ends tonight. All of this, it ends with you. Alex's heart raced, but he kept his stance strong. What do you want from us? His voice was steady, though inside he felt everything crumble. The last few months, the love they had shared, the lies they had uncovered, it had all led to this moment. He had fought for her, loved her with everything he had. But now, standing here, the weight of it all was suffocating. The man's grin widened, but there was a coldness to it, a certainty that sent a chill down Alex's spine. You still don't get it, do you? I wasn't after her. I was after you. All along, it was you I wanted. You were the key to everything. Alex's mind spun. What are you talking about? Why me? The man chuckled darkly. It's simple, really. You have something I need. You have something no one else has. Isabella tensed beside him, her breath catching as she slowly turned to look at Alex. He could see the struggle in her eyes, the weight of the truth she had kept from him, and the fear that had never fully left her. Isabella, what is he talking about? Alex asked, his voice desperate. He needed her to answer, to make sense of it all. Isabella stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the man who had caused them so much pain. Her voice was quiet, but there was an undeniable strength in it. Alex, there's something I need to tell you. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea what she was going to say, but the fear in her voice made him feel like the world was about to collapse around him. He turned to face her, his grip tightening on her hand. Isabella, please. Whatever it is, we can handle it together. You don't have to hide anymore. She took a deep breath, her gaze flickering between Alex and the man. The truth is, I wasn't running from him. I was running from you. Alex recoiled, the words like a slap to his face. What do you mean? Why would you run from me? I wasn't hiding from him, she continued, her voice cracking. I was hiding from the truth. From the fact that I was never meant to be with you. But now, after everything, I realize I was wrong. The man let out a laugh, a dark, mocking sound. It's too late for that, my dear. You've made your choices, and now it's time for him to face the consequences. Alex's mind was racing. He couldn't understand what was happening. What truth was she talking about? Why was she saying all of this? He glanced at the man, his eyes filled with confusion and rage. The man stepped closer, his eyes gleaming with malice. You still don't see it, do you? You've been a pawn in a game far bigger than you. You were always the target. Your love for her, your desire to protect her, it was all a weakness. And that weakness has led you right to me. Alex took a step forward, his fists clenched. I'm done with your games. You're not going to control us anymore. Isabella reached out, grabbing his arm. Alex, no. You don't understand. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. He's not after me. He's after you. Always has been. I wasn't the one in danger. You were. The words hit Alex like a freight train. His head spun. All this time, all the danger, all the fights, they had been for him. But why? What did he have that made him the target of this ruthless man? The man stepped closer, his smile widening as he watched the confusion spread across Alex's face. You're not as important as you think you are, Alex. But you do have something I need. Something that could change everything. Isabella shook her head, her voice breaking. Alex, I never told you because I was protecting you. But now I realize there's no way to protect you anymore. It's all out in the open. Alex's chest tightened as he looked at her, his mind racing. What do you mean? What do I have that he wants? She took a deep breath, her eyes filled with regret. Your blood, Alex. You're not just any man. You're the key to his entire plan. Everything he's done, everything he's been chasing, it's all been about you. It's about your bloodline. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Alex stared at her, unable to process what she was saying. His bloodline? What did that even mean? The man laughed again, cruel and mocking. You're not a simple man, Alex. You were born for a purpose. A purpose that no one has told you about. But it's time for you to understand your role in all of this. Alex shook his head, disbelief filling his mind. You're lying. The man stepped forward, his gaze cold. I don't lie. And now it's time for you to fulfill your destiny. In that moment, everything seemed to slow down. Alex felt the weight of the truth crash down on him, a cold, heavy realization filling him. He wasn't just some random guy caught in a love story. He was a pawn in a much larger game, a game that he hadn't even known he was playing. But as he looked at Isabella, her eyes filled with sorrow and love, the woman he had fought for, the woman who had been with him through it all, he knew one thing for sure. No matter what this man wanted, no matter what he thought he could control, Alex would never let him take her from him. They had fought too hard, loved too fiercely. Nothing would tear them apart. Not even the weight of their past, not even the secrets that had bound them in this twisted web of fate. With a final, desperate movement, Alex grabbed Isabella's hand and pulled her close. "I won't let you go," he whispered, his voice raw with emotion. "We're in this together. We always have been." And as the man moved in for the final strike, Alex's world exploded in a burst of light and sound. Everything changed in that moment, the truth, the lies, the love they shared. It was all leading to this, the final test of everything they had fought for. And in the end, Alex realized that love had saved them. It had always been the one thing that could protect them. Together, they could face anything. Together, they could conquer even the darkest of enemies. And they would, no matter the cost.